I want to recognize first as a Afro-Indigenous woman from the Chitimacha tribe of Louisiana. They are calling themselves the black folk are calling themselves the lost tribe, but I say they are not lost. They're calling themselves lost because there are laws written to write them out and for them to not benefit or be able to benefit from all of what our government gives to them. So I say today, they are not lost. We will find our way. We are here. The sovereign over the state of Arkansas, I greet you, the Osage, the Cherokee, the Caddo, the Quapaw Nation, along with the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Muskogee, and the Seminole. I say thank you. They are not just stewards, and they've been called just stewards and custodians of this land and water. They are sovereign. And we know that land dispossession continues, but we acknowledge them, and we say, we are not lost. We are here. I also acknowledge, always and forever, we pay respect to their elders, and I'm speaking of the enslaved elders that were here, past and present. We also acknowledge the unpaid labor and forced servitude and enslaved Africans and their descendants, whose unremitted labor and exploitation were pivotal to the rapid economy and growth of our nation, and face ongoing oppression, racism, and violence. To them I say, thank you. To them I say, we are not lost. We are here. We see you, we hear you, and we know you. Today we honor Homer G. Blackwell, his life and his family. Here in this chair is a representation of him and his energy being with us. He has a program. This representation is in honor, again, of his energy. And I hope today that his energy is pleased, that his spirit, which was once here, is pleased, that he is released in a way that brings him peace. In indigenous nations, if a soul is taken violently, that soul is believed to be in turmoil, in chaos, stuck. But today, I say, and we say, by our very presence being here, that we send him in peace, that we see you, we hear you, and we know you. Ashe. Now, I would like to thank all of you for being here. thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be with us on this beautiful, solemn, but celebratory day in a way that we believe in truth, healing, and transformation for the state of Arkansas, for the lives that were lost, but also for our future generations. On the back of your program, there are special thank yous to everyone involved. EJI, I wanted to especially thank the Equal Justice Initiative out of Montgomery, Alabama, for all of the help and the assistance and the work that they do. If you have not been, please make that be a part of your to-do, your bucket list, your live-it list, whatever you want to call it. Make that be a part of what you do. It will change your life. And I want to thank Samita. She told me I would butcher her last name. She said, don't even try it. So I'm going to let her. I will not disrespect her like that. But Samita from the Equal Justice Initiative is here, and we're grateful for her coming. We were kind of surprised because we know that this particular year, or especially 2020, the Summer of Resistance, there were a lot of organizations who were reformatting what they were going to do. And they took on some other projects because the nation needed it. And EJI was one. And so with their reformatting, there were liaisons coming in and out, and so Samita's fairly new, and we were not sure we would have anybody representing EJI, but we were told recently, and she was in the car on her way, so we are grateful that she is here with us. And we're grateful because not only the work that EJI does with telling the history of lynchings in America, but also with mass incarceration, but also providing these markers, these monuments of remembrance, and to help us create the culture of a diverse and inclusive culture of remembrance here in the state of Arkansas. So that's very important to us. So thank you so much, Samita, for being here. Like Kwami said, when we are done and you are going out to the marker, please take a scoop of the soil. I personally was out here with the installers, giving honor and also gathering that soil up and putting it in a container so that it may be placed in those jars with Homer G. Blackwell's name on it, that vessel there. I would like to thank, a special thank you also to Calvin Dean. He's in the back. Calvin, wave. Everybody knows Calvin. Calvin's amazing. Calvin and his crew. Calvin, if you look around this beautiful landscape, Calvin is the reason it's the way it is, and his team. I hurried and asked Calvin if he could put, part of the work that we do is to make sure that under the markers is some life, that there is some living flowers or something there that represent life and beauty. And so I asked Calvin, and I talked to Chris. Where's Chris? Is Chris here? Hey, Chris. I emailed him a year ago when we had to kind of put this off, and I said, we need flowers under the markers. And he directed me to Calvin Dean. And Calvin was so gracious and just an amazing human being, of course. And he said, absolutely. I'm going to put hundreds of flowers in that flower bed. And it's going to be as beautiful, if not more, as the landscape that you see. I want to thank my mother. I thought I saw her. Hey, Mama, wave. My beautiful mama. My parents, my father, who is not here on this plane. My family, my friends, cohorts in truth, healing, and transformation. Thank you to all of the people who are here. Thank you to our superintendents. Thank you to our representatives that are here today. Thank you for, I'm grateful for our college presidents that are here. Thank you for everyone else, and charge it to my head and not my heart. Benito Lubazibois, my brother, thank you. And everyone, I appreciate you. I am going to, I said my family, but you know, my family's here. My partner, Kwami Abdul-Bey, I appreciate you. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce one of my favorite people next. She's my Scorpio sister. She's going to do a sacred invocation for us as bringing this all home. Reverend Gianni Olumide is going to come from Sacred Ground in the Alternative Tribe. Please come and bless us. Thank you.
Peace and blessings. Some of you know me formally as Reverend Carissa Rogers, but it's still the same me. And so I ask that you would take a deep breath with me as we prepare to invite the Spirit of the Creator to be with us as it already is. Mother Earth, Father Sky, Creator of all of us, Spirit who dwells within all of us, we give you thanks on this day for the purpose of this gathering, for the purpose of remembering that your divinity lives in every sacred life. We thank you for the life of Homer G. Blackwell, and we remember his divinity and humanity on today. We recognize that history has been filled with a variety of experiences, including atrocities. And just as negative energy exists, so does positive. May our energy here today be galvanized for the harmony of the coming days, for the present time, and for what's necessary in order to be able for your collective to experience love as you have intended. So we thank you for all things. We thank you for the people who have gathered here. We thank you for your Spirit who is with us in this space. And we ask that you would continue to allow our energy to be used to create more and more and more harmony in this plane, in this dimension. We know that you are with us. And so we just ask that you would allow your Spirit that is within us to be inclined to your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. We give you thanks. Ashe and Amen.
On this day, 117 years ago, a man was lynched on this corner right here. After returning to Argenta at the time, after returning to Argenta via train from Lake Village, where he was involved in a court case, he arrived in the city of Argenta in the midst of what is now known as the Argenta Race Riot of 1906. He was not even in town during the riot. he arrived at the end of the riot. However, he had a big mouth. Whereas everybody was told to be quiet and to shut up and do not mention what had happened over the last couple of days, he refused and he asked questions. And because of that, he was arrested and taken to jail. The jail at that time was the two-story building behind the stage at Argenta Plaza, right over there. It's now the headquarters of the North Little Rock History Commission. And while he was in the jail, he was arrested the night of the 6th, October 6th. And while he was in the jail, at some point, the police chief and the police officers left. And several minutes later, masked gunmen showed up and took him out of the jail and took him to this corner and lynched him. I'm thankful that the North Little Rock History Commission has provided us with what we now know it was an eyewitness account, a published book where there was an eyewitness account of this lynching. And because of that book and because of that eyewitness account, we now know specifically this corner right here, this corner was a grocery store. This restaurant behind you was a grocery store. This was a grocery store owned by a white grocer. That was a grocery store owned by a black grocer. Over this building, the North Little Rock Visitor Center, that was a lumber company. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a lumber company. Say again? Mechanics Lumber Company. And then this was the Argenta Ice Company. We do not know exactly which of the corners, was it in front of Mechanics or was it in front of Argenta Ice Company? But there was a light pole, and on a light pole on one of those corners, that's where he was lynched. And then the gentleman that lynched him, the masked gentleman that lynched him, came over to where the marker is, and they unloaded at least 50 shots, gunfire into his body as he hung there. That's why we're here today. We're here to recognize Homer G. Blackwell, who was known locally as Homer G. Black Man. We're here to recognize his humanity. I thank all of you for being here. And what I want to say is that for those of you that have been to any event that Clarice and I have put on, we always have action steps. And if you look in the middle of your program, you will see our list of action steps that we're suggesting for you. Those include 6 printed steps and then an insert for a racial justice essay contest for public high school students in Pulaski County. We thank you for being here. We want to go ahead and get this program started because I know that the mayor has another event that he needs to get to. And Joshua looks like he's ready to play a song for us. You ready, Joshua? All right. Everybody give it up for Joshua Asante.
Peace, everybody. Step out so I can hear myself. May the words of my heart and the meditations of my mind be acceptable in thy sight. Is all for thee. It all has to do with thee. Any inconsistency, that part is me. I thought a little bit about what song to sing, and I wrote a song a few years back, well actually a lot of years back, and I never thought about being in a situation where the song could be closer to reality than fiction. But here's a song that's a little bit appropriate. I was born on the banks of the muddy Mississippi and Memphis. I was born on the banks of the muddy Tennessee. I was born on the banks of the muddy Mississippi and Memphis. Tennessee, as a quiet child, the preacher's son. Counting on Southern soul, I tore the soil with my grandfather. Even my great-grandmama know I've been here before. We shared a bottle of mush corn in '64. Said my dad was a mountain of a man, no teeth marks on his tongue. And he spoke the truth till his last breath was drawn. They hung him high outside of my bedroom window. I can hear my tall papa call my name when the southern wind blows. I was born on the banks of the muddy Mississippi and Memphis, Tennessee, as a quiet child, the preacher's son. Got me an old Southern soul, I tore the soil with my grandfather. Even my great-grandmama know I've been here before. We shared that bottle of mush corn in '64. like the wind, and all the boys from miles around would bring her flowers. They sit for hours, watch her while she combed that kinky hair. Just like a diamond, she calls the eye up. Men both black and white settle down with a boy from the other side of the tracks. White folks ain't like that. So they hung her high outside of my bedroom window. I can hear my pretty sister call my name when a southern wind blows. I was born on the banks of the muddy Mississippi and Memphis, Tennessee, as a quiet child, the preacher's son. Got me an old southern soul, I tore the soil with my grandfather. Even my great-grandmama know I've been here before. We shared a bottle of mescal in '64.
Mayor Terry Hardwick, come on up here.
Thank you, Joshua Asante. He'll be speaking again from his heart a little later. I think I told Kwami to do this, but I'm going to do it. Kwami said that the mob were gentlemen, and I want to make that correction. They were not gentlemen. I think we use that loosely. They were a mob. Mayor Hardwick.
Thank you. Appreciate
You have the floor.
Thank y'all very, very much. I know there's a lot of speakers here today, so I'm not going to take very long. So, Kwami, if you don't mind, come up here with me, please.
Yes, sir.
So, greetings, be it known to all that I, Terry C. Hardwick, Mayor of the City of North Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim this 7th day of October 2023 as Homer G. Blackwell Day in honor of his memorial marker installation ceremony. So, congratulations to all, and thank you for all remembering, okay? It's very good.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. We know you have to leave, so.
Bye.
Yeah, sure.
Let me tell you why I've got to run. You know, our mayor for 24 years passed away this last week. So with that, I'm involved with the preparation of getting all the ceremonies done. With that, I'm hearing that President Clinton may be coming. So Shay, we got the honor guard coming, so accept my apology. So I do appreciate you having me, so thank you, and I accept my apology for leaving. Jerome, good seeing you too. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor Hardwick. We appreciate this proclamation on this day. We appreciate you and your staff for just being so quick in responding to our emails and our requests. So thank you so much. Our next speaker will be our superintendent of North Little Rock High School District, Dr. Gregory Paluski.
Well, good morning. Mayor Hartwick, Representative Scott, President Green, Mrs. Dorothy Williams, our school board president, Mr. and Mrs. Abdul-Bey, distinguished dignitaries, clergy, stakeholder organizations, community members, and most importantly, the family and relatives of Homer G. Blackwell. As the proud superintendent of the North Little Rock School District, I am honored and humbled to have been asked to speak this morning at this historic memorial event. I really appreciate this opportunity. Today is to honor Homer G. Blackwell and memorialize his life, his contributions, his humanity, and his historical significance. Our local history, our state history, our nation's history, our world's history, are powerful threads for understanding the fabric of the human experience, both positive and negative. History allows us the necessary tools to uncover patterns to become better citizens in the future. Today's tribute builds on our own empathy through the understanding of Mr. Blackwell's tragic human experience that we will never forget. As such, today, we must embrace our differences in society as they are simply windows of opportunity for open conversation, for unity, and harmony among each of us. The life and memorial of Homer G. Blackwell serves as a significance for each of us to embrace each other, regardless of our differences, learn from each other, treat each other with human kindness, respect, and compassion, while showing empathy, as everyone's life has value and purpose. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have two public statements. The first one will be by Rachel Patton, and the next one will be by Elise Hampton, in that order.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Patton. I am the president of the Arkansas Historical Association Board of Trustees. The Arkansas Historical Association was founded in 1941 to promote preservation, writing, publishing, teaching, and understanding of Arkansas history. Over the years, the AHA's two major initiatives have been the publication of the Arkansas Historical Quarterly and our annual conferences. We are thankful for the opportunity to participate today, and on behalf of the Arkansas Historical Association, I would like to commend Kwami and Clarice Abdul-Bey and the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement for their incredible work to document and memorialize victims of racial terror in Arkansas. When we learn about the horrendous death of Homer G. Blackwell at the hands of a lynch mob, he transforms from a statistic into a person, a restaurateur and a community leader whose life was tragically cut short. We think about how his death struck fear in the hearts of the city's Black community. By saying his name, we honor his legacy. And by recognizing the sites where racial atrocities took place, we are taking a step toward truth, healing, and reconciliation. The history of lynching in Arkansas is a gruesome and a grisly topic, but it's part of our past. Lynching was used to enforce and maintain social and structural inequalities that we are still trying to overcome, and it's important for us to recognize that. It is important for children of all races and ethnicities to be able to visualize themselves and their ancestors on the pages of their history books. It is our responsibility to tell the full story. Stories about slavery, the struggle for African American civil rights, and equal rights for all human beings. Stories about enterprising Black business people, talented Black artists and musicians who have enriched American culture, about triumph over adversity. African American history is world history. It is American history. It is Arkansas history. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. We really appreciate you, and I can recall us sitting over in Blackberry Market, and I appreciate you hearing what I had to say, and thank you for the work that you're doing. You can say that. Well, speaking of Blackberry Market, he just reminded me that, how much of a percent? So where is she still here? No, she went back, okay. Husband, okay, hello. Owners of and operators of Blackberry Market, right down here. What's the number? 315, have been so gracious to allow a 10% off any of your food, beverages for today when you come with your program and show them. So while we don't have things to nosh on here, but little things for the self-care table, we do have businesses in this community that have supported our efforts and also this particular program. So thank you so much, Blackberry Market. I'm mentioning it because I did mention Blackberry Market right now. I wanted to also mention before we bring up Commissioner Elise Hampton to the stage that Superintendent Dr. Paluski mentioned Homer G. Blackwell's family. And we want you to know that Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement and that our goal and one of our most important priorities as a part of our mission is genealogy and trying to find the families. So we are not doing this just so that we can have things and have markers here in the state of Arkansas. We are also trying to honor the families of the victims. It has been a tough road because it's two of us working very diligently. We are not genealogists, but we also want to thank the historians that we've reached out to help us to get the correct and accurate information so that we know what we're saying and that we know where to look. Rhonda Stewart is one of the amazing genealogists over at the Butler Center. They are having a genealogical workshop today. They have an annual one, and they're having it today at this time. And I petitioned her to help us with the finding of the families so that we may honor them, so that we may give them a vessel, what we can give to them of their families, and so that they may be at these ceremonies to get closure or whatever they need. So I would like to bring up to the stage next Commissioner Elise Hampton, Black History Commission of Arkansas.
Good morning. I am Elise Hampton. I am a commissioner on the Black History Commission of Arkansas. As a commission, it is our mission to preserve the stories of Black Arkansans and Black communities in Arkansas. It is also our mission to promote and increase opportunities for our community to learn our full history. Emphasis on full. As a young child growing up in Central Arkansas, it was in church that I learned the stories of Black Arkansans. In school, even in Arkansas history class, the only story I heard was that of the enslavement of my ancestors. When it came to the stories of Black Americans, we never seemed to make it past that era of history, which I found particularly infuriating as a child. Today, the angry child within me delights that children today have an opportunity to learn a more complete history. In my full-time job, I serve as the principal of North Little Rock Middle School, 7th and 8th grade. And I'm excited that this historical marker will provide my students with tangible evidence of history that occurred here in their city. I look forward to students and teachers alike wrestling with the discomfort of knowing that, yes, even in our state, in our city, lynching occurred and profoundly impacted our community. I look forward to students examining our community today and discussing how our community continues to be impacted by lynching. And I look forward to the stories of students recounting what they've learned to their families at home. In summary, I look forward to my students being more woke than I was at their age. So on behalf of our state's students and educators, I want to express gratitude for the opportunity for us all to wake up and understand that our communities were impacted, are impacted, and will continue to be impacted by the lynching of Black Americans, so long as too many of us are sleeping on our own history. Thank you.
Okay, here comes the exciting part, because she talked about young people, and we have a young person here from the Righteous Poets, Jakara Franklin, who will be performing a poem. Before she performs, I want to thank her grandmother for giving her permission to be here. Due to the political sensitivity of this event, we found that it was very necessary to reach out to her people and let her people know who we were, and let her people know that if she's able to come out, we will all as community hold her together. And I want to thank her brother for being her chauffeur and bringing her out. So, Jakara Franklin.
As he said, my name is Jakara Franklin, and I want to know. I want to know more about Black history, exact history, fact history, to better understand about my background so that I can get some ground back. Hear the drums like I got my sound back. I don't want no gangster rap and no sorrowful tracks to be my soundtrack. Wouldn't it be fun to know where mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons should go, where the first people knew the sun could glow, where my soul connects above, beside, beyond, below? I want to know more about Black history, exact history, fact history. Have you ever thought about joining, belonging, fitting into something black, a black club for black knowledge, like an HBCU, a black college? Other students may know, but I want to know for myself how I'm from the land with the holy valuable text. They say the spirit should be well known helps me grow in my health. Knowing helps me not feel like I'm left out of the curriculum they write, left out of school sites, left out of the basketball game like the kid with no height, simply left outright. That ain't right. I want to know more about black history, exact history, fact history. I don't like how they want to take away a black history class when it's one of the most important classes I could have, a class I definitely want to pass, because I want to know more about black history, exact history, fact history. Not a side history, a live history, a wise history. It's my history, it's my history, it's my history. Thank you.
Yes. All the snaps. Thank you, Shakiri. That was beautiful. And it was definitely an amplified cry from the youth, from all over. They want to know. And we will make sure that they do, no matter what. So thank you for that. The next speaker will be the first Vice President, Maria Hollowell, from the Arkansas Conference of the NAACP.
Good morning. My name is Marie Hollowell, and it's my honor and privilege to speak at this monumental event. I am a civil life member with the Little Rock and Arkansas State Conference NAACP, but I would like to make one correction to my title. I was elected last month as the first vice president of the Arkansas State Conference. However, I have yet to be installed, so I want to adhere to the proper protocol and reserve that title until after my installation. But currently, I serve as the Armed Forces and Veteran Affairs Committee Chairperson, where we help veterans, active duty members, and their families find resources with military issues. I would like to take a moment of personal privilege to recognize that this year, on July 26, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the desegregation of the military. I would also like to thank Kwami and Clarice Bey with the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement for allowing me to speak to you on lynching then and now. Whenever I hear the poem Strange Fruit, I imagine what that tree must have looked like. So I would like for you to take a moment with me to look at that utility pole. Imagine a body hanging from that pole, a lifeless body, one riddled with bullet holes. Then imagine being a family member, a child, a community looking at that body. Do you see hate? Of course you do. But where does that hate come from? Our governor and other governors across the nation want schools and educators not to teach African American history. They call it indoctrination. Some even call it CRT. But what is CRT? I'm not going to debate that right now, and I'm not going to define it. Just think about it. They also determined that they don't want hate taught in our schools. But when you look at that utility pole, imagine Homer G. Blackwell's body hanging from that pole, or the bodies of over 4,000 men, women, and children who were reported as being lynched in the United States. Who hated who? Why shouldn't that history be taught? We have learned that when history is not taught, we repeat it. All people, especially our young people of all races, should have the opportunity to learn all of American history, not just the history that make us feel good because it's comfortable, because change will only come when we feel uncomfortable. So when we're talking about teaching hate, what are we talking about? So when I was asked to speak on lynching, I started my research. I was reminded of a time when I traveled extensively and I would send my mom and dad postcards of the cities and sites that I visited. However, the research that I found was a little different. The postcards that were sent during the time of lynching to friends and family depicted strange fruit, human bodies hanging from trees. They were mutilated, burned, and riddled with bullet holes with crowds of over 15 to 20,000 smiling faces. What a spectacle it must have been to watch a person be hung, burned, shot, and mutilated, all for crimes that they probably didn't even commit. And some of the crimes were so simple as passing off counterfeit money, whistling at a white woman, or talking out of line or in a condescending manner to a white person. So ask yourself, does the punishment fit the crime? Of course not. But when you have a group that feels that they are a superior race, they believe they have the authority to perform this level of justice. As I mentioned earlier, there were over 4,000 recorded instances of lynching from the early 19th century into the late 20th century. I'm confident that there were many more that were lynched since the recordings were not a requirement. In the 1900s, the NAACP supported the legislation first introduced by Representative George Henry White, a black Republican from North Carolina, to end lynching and make it a federal crime. It never made it out of committee. By 1919, due to the increased hatred and lynching, many black Americans began to flee to the South, which was known as the Great Migration. The NAACP had a long-standing history of working to end lynching by establishing grassroots activism such as boycotting white businesses and creating opportunities for black prosperity. In that same year, the NAACP published a report which disproved the myth that stated most lynchings were based on African-American attacks on white women. Then, in 1924, Leonis Dyer, who represented a majority African-American district, was outraged by the violence and number of lynchings that were unprosecuted in the South, and he drafted his anti-lynching bill. And even though it passed the House, it never came to a vote in the Senate because Southern state senators opposed anti-lynching laws. Then, the great Ida B. Wells emerged not only as a member of the NAACP, but a very outspoken anti-lynching crusader who composed a newspaper to criticize the atrocities of lynching, and people paid attention to her. On March 8, 2022, over 150 years after the first lynching, Congress passed the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, which outlawed lynching and made it a federal hate crime. Even with the passing of that legislation, the shamefulness and acknowledgement of lynching has yet to occur. And lynching is still happening today. And ironically, even though the Senate passed the bill unanimously, while in the House, 3 representatives voted against it. They were from the states of Texas, Georgia, and Kentucky. And of all those 3 states, 2 of them had the highest numbers of lynchings in the United States. Georgia was the 2nd highest, Texas was the 3rd highest, with Mississippi being number 1. The irony of this is that when we look at modern-day lynching, we're reminded of James Byrd, a black man who was chained to the back of a truck by 3 white supremacists and was dragged along a bumpy road until he was decapitated. That happened in Texas in 1998. Then in Georgia, we all remember Ahmaud Arbery, the young black man who loved to run. And while running through a neighborhood, 3 white men decided that they didn't like that he was running in their neighborhood and that he must be up to no good. So they chased him down, they cornered him, and they murdered him. And in 2020, they left him in the streets to die. Then in Kentucky, a young lady named Breonna Taylor was asleep in her home and awakened to a loud noise and shouting in her bedroom, only to be shot and killed by those sworn to protect and serve because they were at the wrong house, again in 2020. And then, of course, the catalyst that has brought police brutality to the forefront, George Floyd, who was accused by a store clerk of possibly using counterfeit $20 bills, and he was murdered in the street for all to see and hear his words, "I can't breathe." All of this at the hands of a police officer that knelt on his neck for 9 minutes and 23 seconds. Learning our history is not about teaching hate. Learning our history is about teaching our children so they have a better understanding of why things are the way they are, why for people of color the justice system seems unfair, or why specific opportunities are not readily available to them. So if you ask me if lynching still exists, my answer is yes. Of course it does. If it didn't, then there would be an explanation as why there are so many black people being killed when we make up such a small percentage in the United States. So based on the history of Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas, is it a coincidence that they voted against the anti-lynching bill, or is it the culture? People often wonder why people are so fearful, black people are so fearful of the police. History reminds us that many times these lynchings occurred when people were taken by mobs from the jails, often at the direction of the sheriff or another high-level official. We have a lot of work to do. We have to continue to do this work to make our young men and our young women feel safe. So as we look at that utility pole, let's remember that while we've come quite a ways, we are not there yet. And based on that history of Georgia, Kentucky, Texas, we know that it's time for us, when we look at that utility pole, we will be reminded of the strange fruit that now has a name. John Randolph, Peter Berryman, Hilliard, Emmett Till, Homer G. Blackwell, Breonna Taylor, James Byrd, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Dante Wright, and many, many more.
The only thing that I like to add to that is Arkansas is up there in those numbers. According to the Equal Justice Initiative's research and the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement's research, there are at least 500 documented lynchings that occurred in this state. So we're up there too. Next, I'd like to bring to the stage Benito Lubezibwa. We thought that it was vitally important for him to come because Homer G. Blackwell was an entrepreneur. And what Benito does is he works on behalf of black entrepreneurs throughout the state of Arkansas. And we want to give him an opportunity to talk about the significance of Homer G. Blackwell's lynching and how it relates to his work today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kwami, and thank you, my sister Clarice, for inviting me. My name is Benito Lubezibwa. I'm a CEO and founder of Remix Ideas. And I just want to tell you, telling the story of Blackwell is extremely important. In Africa, we say that until the lions have their own historians, history will always talk about the hunters. It's time for us to tell our own stories, and thank you for that. October 7th, 1906, not only Blackwell was lynched, but the black community was lynched. October 7th, 1906, the black dreams, they were lynched. October 7, 1906, our dreams of our ancestor was lynched. The humanity was lynched. Lynching is plain and simple evil. But in this case also, I know Kwame said that is what he said, but it was more than that. It was who he was. He was an entrepreneur. 2 weeks ago, we had 2 days ago, we had a Black Founder Summit, and our keynote speaker said that black entrepreneurship is an act of resistance. At that time, just imagine, I'll repeat that part. Black entrepreneurship is an act of resistance because they expect us to be in the certain place. And for him in 1906 to be a successful black entrepreneur, he was challenging and threatening the white supremacy. He was bringing to us that, no, we are not what they say we are. So challenging the dominance of that time, the culture of showing black people inferior, which is not true. Challenge of white supremacy. It was the threat to the status quo. It was disrupting the entrepreneur ecosystem at that time. And that's why they lynched him. That's why in 1892, they lynched 3 black people in Memphis. That's why almost the same year, they lynched black people in Atlanta because of economics. Underneath, it's all about economics. The migration of people, when they were lynching, it was to terrorize. They used that tool to terrorize. I think we talk about terrorism. We have seen terrorism in this country. Lynching was a tool to terrorize. And in that time, you see mass migration of people from south to north and west. And it was about labor. It was about economics. So underneath this evil is economics. And I want to thank Blackwell for being pioneer of what we are doing right now. Still try to disrupt this ecosystem so black people, they can start and grow and scale their businesses. His work is still here. We remember him. In Africa, we say, as long as you remember their names, they're still alive. He's still with us. He had the courage to start the business, to challenge this system. And we all, black, white, we have to dismantle this system. This is not who we are. Lynching people, inviting kids, whatever, it was like a ceremony to lynch a black man. That's humanity? No, it's not. We are all children of God. So, because of that, we're going to start a pitch competition, a business competition, start next year, because it's October 7, where we'll give $7,000 to a black entrepreneur. And we'll work with you guys. We want his name, we're going to remember Blackwell, his name is going to be remembered. And we're going to continue to challenge the status quo, to challenge the evilness of white supremacy. We have to call as it is. It's evil. And by the way, it's not what he said. It was who he was. The economic success of as a black entrepreneur, it was a threat. They saw the competition. They saw that we have economic mobility. All the time, this system for 400 years, since the Africans, enslaved Africa came to this country, has put us in the place where we cannot advance. That's a fact. And we have to dismantle this system. And for everybody, this is for everybody, black or white. If you come here, if you really see this lynching as evil, you have responsibility. We all have responsibility to play a part, not just to put that mark. That mark is, the marker is good. But what are we going to do next? What are you going to do next? And for those Christians, I know this country is a lot of Christians in this country. I see churches everywhere. But they lynch Jesus and they lynch black people. You know, I don't know. But anyway, that's it. Let's put aside. But tomorrow you're going to church. In Africa, we say, when you pray, move your feet. Don't go over there and say, I'll pray for Blackwell. Then what? You need to move your feet to dismantle this systemic racism, to challenge white supremacy, which is still here. Today, they ban our books. They don't want to tell our story. They don't want to hear the story of Blackwell. It's time for us to move our feet. Thank you very much.
I keep trying to have Marilyn Monroe moments with the wind in my dress. Brother, Thank you. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you for the event 2 days ago. It changed my life even more. And I know, as a social entrepreneur, and also as well, I will say social, anything I do would be social, that when I do this work, I do it for the ancestors, and I do it for those people like Homer G. Blackwell, who did not get to finish his work, and for his family who did not get to benefit from his legacy. Thank you so much again. When you pray, move your feet. Benito says that, and I appreciate it. He said it at one time, and I called him and I said, I printed what you said, and it's an African proverb, but I also have "and Benito" at the end of that as a quote. And I printed it out with feet in the sand, and I have it over my work desk as a reminder. So I would encourage you to have a reminder of what he just spoke about, the importance of that. So we're going to move to bring up State Representative Jamie Scott, North Little Rock, 6. You have 6 descendant, is that correct? District? Okay.
Everywhere I speak, I have to lower the mic. I'm a little short, but thank y'all for the invitation to speak today at the historical marker unveiling ceremony memorializing the life and humanity of Homer G. Blackwell. I want to mention a couple things regarding policy before I give my remarks. Today's been very moving. I remember when I was first elected and Kwami, was at the Capitol talking to us about all the lynchings that have took place in our state. And there's like a viral video of me crying. And people thought I was weak because I was thinking about my ancestors whose dreams were cut very short. And let me tell you, I'm a woman who speaks up at the Capitol. I speak up on the floor when we're fighting against Senate Bill 71 to do away with affirmative action in our state. I'm a woman who speaks in the well against bills to do away with discrimination. I'm a woman who speaks with the governor when we need funding for HBCUs. I'm someone who speaks when these injustices are brought to the Capitol and we're trying to ban books. And so we need allies. As a black woman, I'm the youngest black woman on the Senate Agency Committee, and I was the only black person in the room fighting back against them trying to do away with discrimination in this state in regards to state agencies when Arkansas leads the country in maternal mortality rates for black women. And so it's not just us passing bills and people running behind national movements. These bills are going to impact the lives of minority communities. And we need allies, and we need everybody to speak up for every community and every neighbor. And we're not doing that as we should. So I'm thankful for the life and how courageous Homer G. Blackwell was. I'm thankful for the testament that he today in remembrance of him and his life and his legacy. So there's so much work to be done. We recently met with the governor and her staff about them trying to do away with the teaching and the attack on African American studies in this state. But there's too many communities who are silent. You know what my colleagues tell us all the time? They don't hear from us. Nobody from their community has spoke out. And let me tell you, how can we be silent when all this injustice is taking place around us? I'm the youngest black woman ever elected to the Arkansas legislature. I come from a family, my uncle was a member of the North Little Rock 6. My family was on the forefront of the civil rights movement here in Arkansas. And oftentimes I'm fighting alone when I'm on committees and I'm the only black representative. I feel like the weight of the community is on my back. And I can't have people don't even show up to fight for what I'm fighting for in this state. It's a lonely place sometimes, but I'm still gonna do the work. I'm still gonna show up and fight, even when it's hard, because our history is worth being taught, no matter how long I feel at that Capitol. So we gather today to remember and reflect upon the dark and disturbing chapter in our history, an event that serves as a stark reminder of the injustices that have stained our past, and one that calls upon us to work together to build a more just and equitable future in Arkansas. The city of North Little Rock, as you can see, I'm so proud to represent this district, has invested so much in this Argenta district. Today we see thriving small businesses, beautiful real estate development, and charming streets where constituents can walk without fear of losing their lives. It's difficult to fathom the violence and injustice that took place in these streets and on that pole more than a century ago. But that was the life our ancestors faced. Our community leaders and the organizers today should be commended for the progress here and for their refusal to bury its history. And thank you for your challenge to pray and move our feet. I'm going to pledge $1,000 to that movement that you're going to do for October 7th, because I'm a woman that's going to work and I'm going to move my feet, and I'm going to take those signatures and personally collect the signatures, because I want this street to be renamed after Homer G. Blackwell, because it's not enough to just say that we support these issues, but we're not willing to do the work. We need more people doing the work. We need more people speaking up. We don't need people just trolling on social media. That gets us nowhere. So, acknowledging a painful history allows us to confront and process uncomfortable truths of our past and learn from our mistakes and heal as we strive for a better Arkansas. The lynching of Homer G. Blackwell is a reminder of the profound injustice suffered by countless individuals, and I mean countless, who were denied their basic human rights and dignity solely based on the color of their skins or their ability to speak up. And I thank you for your remarks. I thank you for the work that the NAACP continues to do in this state, all the chapters, and in this country, because our work is not done, it's far from done. And I thank you for the young people who are standing up and pushing back against the governor and Secretary Oliva's fight to do away with the teaching of African American studies in our schools. Our history cannot be erased, and it should be taught all over the state. But we can work, but our work, and it has to have a sincere intent so that it can never be repeated. Homer G. Blackwell's story is a painful reminder of the racial injustice and the violence that plagued our country for far too long. And as she said, it continues to plague us in different areas, in different spaces, and it just looks different. Some of the lynchings still look the same, as she documented some of the individuals who are not with us anymore, and we're still fighting for those justices in this state. Our remembrance should not and cannot end with just this ceremony, like Benito said. It should inspire us to take bold and continuous actions and commit ourselves to principles of justice, equality, and unity. For our neighbors in every community, we must ensure that the painful legacy of lynching becomes a catalyst for positive change like it is today, and the driving force for dismantling the systematic racism that we still see and the prejudice that still persists in our society. In 2023, we are fighting against people who are trying to persecute our librarians, y'all. They are putting our black ancestors and our black authors' books on the ban list because they don't want our history to be taught. And that was Senate Bill 81. I'm telling you, I know all the bills because oftentimes it's hard to focus on other legislation because every day we're fighting against all these attacks on our history at the Capitol. And people ask, what are we doing? We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our history. We're fighting for economic development. We're fighting for entrepreneurships. We're fighting for the right for our history to be taught to all communities. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's also uncomfortable to sit here and listen to the story of a man who was lynched and shot 50 times because he raised his voice and didn't even participate in a riot. And that makes people uncomfortable. Continue to be uncomfortable because our work is not done. Continue to be uncomfortable. And we will continue to raise our voice and honor the life of Homer G. Blackwell. We must continue to create a community in North Little Rock that is inclusive and welcoming of all. We must engage in meaningful conversations about race and discrimination and build bridges of understanding and empathy and unity. Today, I am so grateful for the honor and the privilege to stand before you. And as my brother Benito said, we will pray, we will work, we will put our dollars there, we will show up, and we will advocate for all communities. Thank you for having me.
All right. Next, I want to bring up our final speaker for this event. After this final speaker comes up, we'll have another poem and another musical selection. During that last musical selection, we will all migrate over to the marker, and at the marker, there will be a closing prayer, and then we will unveil the marker. But our last speaker, I was so excited to see him finally in person. Dr. Jerome Green of Shorter College, the president of Shorter College. Clarice and I met him during the shutdown via Zoom. And the thing that really motivates us about his work over at Shorter College is what he's doing with bringing the Pell Grant back and allowing those brothers and sisters that are locked up in the prisons to be able to get education. And what we do here at the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement is we draw the through line from lynching and mass incarceration and the death penalty. So that's why it's very important, we thought, for him to close us out today. Dr. Jerome Green, come on up.
To Kwame and Clarice, the Arkansas Peace and Justice Movement, I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this historic activity. To Representative Scott, Superintendent Paluski, and all who are gathered here. It is my honor to represent the HBCU community as we commemorate the life of Homer G. Blackwell. What have we learned? The lynching, deaths, and massacres of Homer G. Blackwell and countless other men and women of color teaches us that black lives have not mattered historically in the United States of America and in Arkansas. What have we learned? We have learned that we must say that black lives matter out loud and as a single phrase to accentuate and remind America and Arkansas that black lives matter too. It is not enough to say that all lives matter, even though they do. Some do not think that black lives matter as much. We have learned that the history of America must be taught truthfully and must include the accomplishments of black Americans as well as what happened to them in order to have a well-educated citizenry. Myths such as black people benefited from slavery must not be tolerated. When a society does not know its history, it is doomed to repeat its mistakes. What have we learned? We have learned that thoughts and prayers are not enough, that they are inadequate response to gun violence, mass shootings, police misconduct, killing of innocent people. We must respond with action, condemnation, and legislative action, and other direct action to make our communities and our nations safer. What have we learned? We have learned that through viable direct action, organizing, protest, public advocacy, like the work of the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement and others, that we can raise the consciousness of our community to make it one in which there is freedom and justice for all. What have we learned? We have learned that working together in truth and love, that we shall overcome. What have we learned? We have learned that truth crushed to earth will rise again. What have we learned? We have learned from Martin Luther King Jr. and others that together we can move America to live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We can do it. What have we learned? That the arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. What have we learned? We've learned that the Bible is true. And I want to leave you with a quote from the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 4 and 5. Every valley shall be exalted. Every mountain and hill shall be made low. And the crooked places made straight. And the rough places made smooth. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. Keep fighting. Keep working.
Thank you, President Green. All right, I appreciate you. We, again, like Kwame said, during the summer of resistance, we spoke with him about, we had a series called College Behind Bars, and he was one of our panel, and we just really appreciate the work that you're doing over at Shorter College. Thank you so much. We are now going to have another poet, more than a poet, my sister and friend, Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell. Yes, to read a poem by Maya Angelou. Denise Donnell is the founder and CEO of Just Talk Consulting, and I'm gonna let her come on up. I appreciate her because I grabbed her also again at the last minute, but she is so gracious and wonderful. Thank you.
Hear these words from our ancestor, Maya Angelou. and receive them as the call to action that they are, as another opportunity for us to move our feet. We, this people, on a small and lonely planet, traveling through casual space, past aloof stars, across the way of indifferent suns, to a destination where all signs tell us it is possible and imperative that we learn a brave and startling truth. And when we come to it, to the day of peacemaking, when we release our fingers from fists of hostility and allow the pure air to cool our palms, when we come to it, when the curtain falls on the minstrel show of hate and faces sooted with scorn are scrubbed clean, when battlefields and coliseum no longer rake our unique and particular sons and daughters up with bruised and bloody grass to lie in identical plots in foreign soil, when the rapacious storming of the churches, the screaming racket in the temples have ceased, when the pennants are waving gaily, when the banners of the world tremble stoutly in the good, clean breeze. When we come to it, when we let the rifles fall from our shoulders and children dress their dolls in flags of truce, when landmines of death have been removed and the aged can walk into evenings of peace, when religious ritual is not performed by the incense of burning flesh and childhood dreams are not kicked awake by nightmares of abuse. When we come to it, then we will confess that not the pyramids with their stones set in mysterious perfection, nor the gardens of Babylon hanging as eternal beauty in our collective memory, not the Grand Canyon kindled into delicious color by western sunsets, nor the Danube flowing in blue soil into Europe, not the sacred peak of Mount Fuji stretching to the rising sun, neither Father Amazon nor Mother Mississippi, who without favor nurture all creatures in the depths and on the shores. These are not the only wonders of the world. When we come to it, we, this people, on this minuscule and kithless globe, who reach daily for the bomb, the blade, and the dagger, yet who petition in the dark for tokens of peace. We, this people on this mote of matter, in whose mouths abide cankerous words which challenge our very existence, yet out of those same mouths come songs of such exquisite sweetness that the heart falters in its labor and the body is quieted into awe. We, this people, on this small and drifting planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon that in a twinkling life is sapped from the living. Yet those same hands can touch with such healing, irresistible tenderness, that the haughty neck is happy to bow and the proud back is glad to bend. Out of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn that we are neither devils nor divines. When we come to it, we, this people, of this wayward floating body created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every man and every woman can live freely without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible, we are the miraculous, the true wonder of this world. That is when, and only when, we come to it.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell, such a profound speaker, poet, person. Thank you. When we come to it. We have our last musical selection by our brother Joshua Asante. Once again, this is what we're going to do is we're going to, while he is praying, because his music are like prayers to me, we're going to go past this table where Samita is standing, row by row, and we would like for you to come and put the soil in the vessels of Homer G. Blackwell. One part of the Equal Justice Initiative's I would say program or initiative is to make sure that there are soil of the place where the lynching occurred in the vessels. And we have one for EJI. We'll go back to the Equal Justice Initiative, and we keep one as an organization. We also have one for the family when we locate them. We, and I will say this, we have at least 400, 500 vessels that we need to collect the soil of humans whose lives have been taken here in the state of Arkansas. And so we will be reaching out for support. We do want to have a space for conversation, a space for dialogue, a space where those jars rest. And so we are in pursuit of doing that, and we will elicit students to help us with gathering the soil, the 492 to 500. Joshua, Iyasu, you ready? Okay. So as Joshua sings and prays, we will, again, row by row, go by the table, scoop some soil, put it in the vessels, and then go and gather around the marker. We will then have a prayer at the marker, closing prayer by Chaplain Reverend Mary Hall Lovett from Schroeder College. And then we will have an unveiling, and before that, Samita will be saying a few words from the Equal Justice Initiative, and we will have some community members read the marker. And we will be done for today, but we will continue the work. No.
I have the affliction of being an artist, and so I have an inability to look away. I want to tell you something real quick before you go. That's not weakness. That's rage. Aim it. And so I wonder what to sing, because in the process of not looking away, I have a lot of rage that I have to deal with. And the last thing I want to do with that rage is sing about it. Equity and gesture is not my thing. I kind of want something different. So I'm going to sing this song that my sister sang at my grandmother's funeral, that I'm not the singer that my sister is, but I feel it's appropriate. The great dame of Afrofuturism, Octavia Butler, she says that the destiny of Earthseed is to take root amongst the stars. And I believe that the people of color of this planet will eventually take root amongst the stars. Soon I will, soon I will be done. Soon I will be done. Soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. troubles of this world, the troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. Going home to live in the stars. No more weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing. Going home to live in the stars. No more lynching and murder. No more lynching and murder. No more lynching and murder. Going home to live. Going home. Soon I will be done. Soon I will be done. Soon I will be done. The troubles of this world, the troubles of this world. Going home to live in the stars. No more crying and worry. No more crying and worry. No more crying and worry. Going home to live in the stars. Soon I will be done. Soon I will be done. Soon I will be done. The troubles of this world, the troubles of this world, the troubles of this world. Going home to live in the stars. Thank you.
Let us still ourselves as we offer up a prayer. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, God who hears our whispers in our midnight hours, and God who hears our screams. We want to thank you for your presence here today in this sacred place and in this sacred time as we honor the name of Homer G. Blackwell and honor his life. We pray, oh God, that you will Help us now to be better than we were when we came, God, because we've become more sensitive to your will and your way. Help us to be agents of light that carry your love. Help us not respond so quickly out of fear, narrow-mindedness, but help us to be quick to forgive. And dear Lord, this man, this black man whose life was taken away from him needlessly, we ask, oh God, that you will let his spirit rest and let his legacy live on. And now I'm going to ask all of you to do something with me, because I've heard that in this world we die twice. And that is once when breath leaves our body, and secondly, when our name is no longer called on this earth. And I'm going to ask that each of you will call his name with me, Homer G. Blackwell.
Homer G. Blackwell.
And let us honor his energy with one single clap. Amen.
Thank you. And once everyone gets finished contributing to the soil collection, then we'll have the unveiling. So if someone has a poem I want to sing or something right there, now's your time. Come on, Michael. Get up here. Your voice is amazing. You have anything you want to say?
It's been an amazing event. I'm happy to be here. Kwami, great job to everybody who has been here. This has been a very moving event, so thank you.
Thank you. Hold it right here. Here. Thank you. All right, well, we're just going to wait. We have several others that want to participate in the soil collection. Then once the soil is collected, then we'll come over, we'll unveil the marker, and we'll have two community members. The marker is two-sided, so we'll have one community member read one side and another community member read the other side. And then the program is over. The city of North Little Rock is going to create a garden in this area right here. And the marker looks beautiful in the daytime, but you gotta come check it out at night, because this spotlight is lit at night, and it's amazing. While we're waiting, I just want to thank everyone for coming out and participating. For Clarice and I, this is our labor of love. This is the third marker sponsored by the Equal Justice Initiative in partnership with the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement. This is the third one here in Arkansas, the second one in Pulaski County. There's one in Washington County. The Washington County Community Remembrance Project was responsible for putting that one up. There's one in, is that me? Okay. Benito? No, there's one in Little Rock. That's the John Cotter marker, which is at his lynching site, which is on 12th Street at Haven Arrest Cemetery. So when you get an opportunity, definitely go out and check that marker out. That marker was put up in 2021. And also on the back of your program, we took the liberty of listing the 8 markers, permanent markers here in the state of Arkansas that deal with racialized terrorism. We don't know if this is a complete list. This is just the ones that we are aware of. So if anyone here knows of more, definitely let us know so that we can correct ourselves. We are working with Hot Spring County Community Remembrance Project for them to put up a marker in February of 2024. Yeah, can you speak the name of the lynching victim and tell us a little bit about him?
John Henry Harrison was lynched on February 1922. So on we observed the 100th year observation. We had a community dialogue around it. Our library spearheaded that effort. Claire Graham is our, she's a regional director there. So anyway, so hopefully in 2024, we can come to Malvern. Yes, thank you, thank you.
Looking, okay, we just have a couple of people left, and then we'll have the unveiling. Yes, sir, Dan.
I'm Dan Reimer, representing the
I think that's right there.
the Baha'i community of North Little Rock. And when I lived in Africa from 81 to 87, one of the things I learned is at the end of every meeting you offer a vote of thanks. And you have thanked everyone who's participated in the program, but we want to thank you, Kwami and Clarice, for bringing us together and honoring this man. Your work is invaluable and we all appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, I definitely received that. You are welcome, everyone, you're all welcome.
I guess it's good afternoon, everyone. I'm Garbo Hearn, and I'm here representing the Dunbar Historic Neighborhood Association. Would like to welcome you to come over to the Dunbar community. It's on the field behind the Dunbar Community Center. We'll be celebrating the Dunbar Community District. This is our 9th festival where we honor the people that lived in that district, the black people who went to school at Dunbar, and all of the history of that neighborhood. So we'd like for you to come out and celebrate with us today from 1 to 8. Thank you. All right. Oh, also we do have books available at the bookstore, which is located on 101 Wright Avenue in Chester, where we focus on black culture through literature and the fine arts. So we welcome you to come by. We do have some examples on the table over there, but we'd love for you to come to our bookstore and gallery. Thank you.
And again, for those of you that live in North Little Rock or know people who live in North Little Rock, we are collecting signatures to rename 6th Street Homer G. Blackwell Avenue. We're only required to collect 200 signatures, but our goal is to collect 1,906 signatures. So we will be collecting those signatures starting today. And also you have a insert in your program for the high school essay contests. Please, if you know anybody who lives in Pulaski County that goes to public school or charter high school, please let them know about the essay contests. They have an opportunity to win up to $5,000 in unrestricted funding for them to pursue post-secondary education. Doesn't have to be college, it can be a technical school or whatever. We just give them, well, EJI gives them the check. But they give them the check and they spend it as they please as long as it's for educational pursuits. We got everybody? Oh, Reverend Denise Donnell? Yes, come on over here. You don't have to run. We'll be here all day. No, we won't. No, we won't, because Lauren has said he wants live lolly. So we got to get over there. Clarice? Samita?
So right now we're going to have Samita from EJI come and say a few words, and then we will pass the microphone to the community members that we asked to read the marker. Samita?
Good morning, and thank you for being with us here today to recognize the important community remembrance work that's being done in Pulaski County. My name is Sumita Rajpurath, and I'm a project manager with the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. I just wanted to share a little bit about EJI's work and the community remembrance projects that we are helping support, including markers like this one. EJI was founded over 30 years ago in 1989 by our executive director, Mr. Brian Stevenson, in response to a crisis on Alabama's death row. At the time, 1/4 of all executions in the country were taking place in Alabama, but those condemned to die lacked even the most basic representation. In the decades since, EJI has continued its mission to represent people on death row, and we've been able to expand our work to provide assistance for children condemned to die in prison, people facing cruel and inhumane treatment in Alabama's prisons, and many others who've been cruelly and unfairly convicted and sentenced. Yet as we've continued our work challenging racial injustice inside the courtroom, we've come to appreciate the need for change outside the courtroom as well. Change in our narratives around the history of racial violence and injustice in our country, and changes in the very landscape that surrounds us. We have not yet adequately acknowledged the destruction done by the genocide of millions of indigenous people, by the enslavement of generations of kidnapped Africans and their descendants, by the culture that tolerated over a century of racial terror lynchings, and by the vehemence with which so many resisted the tide of justice and clung to segregation. More than a decade ago, EJI launched a public education project focused on telling the truth about America's racial history. Through research, writing, and community partnerships, EJI works to document and memorialize the eras of enslavement, racial terror lynching, segregation, and today, mass incarceration. Our Community Remembrance Project is one way that we're able to work alongside community members across the country who are taking on the challenging and necessary work of truth-telling, which we believe will help build a future rooted in justice. For too long, we've been silent about our history of racial violence and terror. That silence has made generations culpable in failing to treat an open wound that still bleeds, still stings, and still causes suffering. When Homer G. Blackwell was seized from police custody and lynched by a mob here at the corner of 6th and Main Streets in 1906, he was burdened by presumptions of guilt and dangerousness that still infect our society today. Mr. Blackwell was not permitted to defend himself from the accusations of a white neighbor, and his killing was meant to further terrorize the entire Black community in the wake of widespread violence against Black businesses and homes. But today, with this marker, we can honor Mr. Blackwell and take steps towards healing these wounds. Today we say no more. We say no longer will we be silent. When EJI began working with coalitions around the country to memorialize victims of racial terrorism, it was our hope to help bring about exactly what you see here today. To help begin the process of truth and reconciliation, of truth and repair. All of us at EJI are so proud of the extraordinary group of people here in Pulaski County, especially Clarice and Kwami. We would not be here without them today, so thank you. Who've come together to do this meaningful work, and we are honored to be part of your efforts. Thank you.
Pull it down. Oh, okay. Take this down.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did that on purpose.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Obafemi Kinsie Delele. I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I'm a recording artist. a homeschooling father. I also run with my mate here, the Arkansas Black Homeschool Support Group. So I am going to share what this sign says. The lynching of Homer G. Blackwell. On October 7th, 1906, a white mob lynched a black restaurant owner named Homer G. Blackwell in Argenta, which is today North Little Rock. About 3 weeks earlier, on September 12th and 13th, 2 black men were shot and killed after fighting with white men. Failure to hold the white men accountable led to growing hostility in the community. Then, on October 6th, a white man was shot to death on East Washington Avenue, where several black businesses were located. This event sparked what would be known as the Argenta Race Riot, wherein white mobs terrorized the black community, burning black homes and businesses. Law enforcement failed to stop the violence, and at least 500 black people fled the city. Mr. Blackwell, who was also known locally as Mr. Blackman, had been out of town and arrived back in Argenta late on October 6th by train. His home and restaurant were also on East Washington Avenue, and upon his return, a white neighbor accused him of participating in the shooting. Mr. Blackwell was arrested and taken to the city jail, but the next night, a white mob broke in, abducted him, and hanged him to a light pole at the corner of 6th and Main Streets. After the lynching, the Daily Arkansas Gazette, a white newspaper with a history of amplifying suspicions against black people, insisted that Mr. Blackwell had been innocent of the charges against him. In the end, no one was held accountable for lynching Homer G. Blackwell. The Equal Justice Initiative, Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement of 2023. Great work, man.
And we're going to have Ruth read the back.
Thank you, Kwami. I'm Ruth Shepard, and my husband and I visited the Peace and Justice Memorial in Montgomery, I don't know, several years ago. So this is like part of our dream coming true after we visited that memorial. Lynching in America. Following the Civil War, violent resistance to equal rights for black people and an ideology of white supremacy led to racial terrorism, not only in the South, but across the United States. Lynching emerged as the most notorious form of racial terrorism intended to intimidate black people and enforce racial hierarchy and segregation. More than 6,500 black people were lynched in the United States between 1865 and 1950 for resisting economic exploitation, violating perceived social customs, engaging in interracial relationships, or being accused of crimes. During this era, white people's allegations against black people were rarely subject to scrutiny and often sparked mob violence, even when there was no evidence tying them to an offense. Many black people were pulled out of jails or given over to mobs by law enforcement officials who were legally required to protect them. It was also common for a lynch mob's focus to move beyond a specific person to targeting any or all black people unfortunate enough to be in their path. In most cases, the communities devastated by this violence never received any resources to repair the harm. White officials largely tolerated the lynchings of black people and failed to hold white mobs accountable. Lynching inflicted trauma upon the entire black community and claimed the lives of at least 493 black people across the state of Arkansas including at least 5 victims in Pulaski County. Thank you.
Where's Reverend Denise Donnell? Will you step up here really quickly, because she has a very beautiful way of grounding us after this information, very important information that we read. So would you ground us and lead us home?
And send us forth? Okay. I don't know how you came to this place today. I don't know what was on your mind or in your heart or what was reverberating in your soul. I don't know how your spirit has felt as you listened to the words that were coming from the mouths of all of the speakers. I don't know how you felt listening to Joshua sing the songs from his soul. I don't know where you were when all of that was happening. But what I do know is that there's no way that you cannot be changed right now in this moment. There's no way that you cannot be ready to move your feet in this moment. There's no way that you cannot be ready to do something, anything that you can possibly do to continue to remember the lynchings of Black folks in Arkansas in particular, but all over this world. And so whatever stirring is happening way down deep in you, I hope that it doesn't let you sleep at night until you figure out what you're gonna do with it. And then call somebody and let them know so we can get on the journey with you, because the work won't stop until we make it stop. So we are grateful for your presence in this space. We are grateful. I feel like I need to take my shoes off. We are grateful to be standing on this sacred ground with Homer G. Blackwell and all of his living witness to us. And it is with the remembrance of him and his family and his community and our families that we bid you goodbye this day. And we hope to see you again, ready to move on behalf of our ancestors. Ashe.
And we're done.